You have 1 week to leave. My brother smirked across the dinner table, and my parents? They just stared at their plates. So I reached into my bag, pulled out the deed, and calmly said, "Actually, you all have 24 hours. I never thought I'd be betrayed over roast chicken and mashed potatoes. But family betrayal doesn't come with fireworks. It comes quietly, over dinner, in your own home, from the people you spent your life protecting." It was a cold Sunday night, the kind where the house smells like butter and the wind taps on the windows. Mom flipped through a gossip magazine by the fire. Dad had the news on. And then, Mark walked in, 30 minutes late, wearing a smug grin and flashing his luxury watch. He poured wine like he owned the place. He didn't. This house had almost drowned, twice. Once in the crash of '08, and again under the weight of my dad's medical bills. Mark was gone both times, busy playing executive in Chicago. I was the one who stayed. I worked 2 jobs, lived in the damp guest room, and fought like hell to keep the lights on. I refinanced the mortgage under my name. I paid every bill. I fixed every leak. I didn't do it for applause. I did it because I believed family took care of each other. So when Mark sat down and casually told me I had a week to leave, I laughed. At first, I thought he was joking. He wasn't. He said, "Mom and Dad need peace. You're stressing them out." I looked at my parents, waiting for them to shut it down. But they just sat there, silent. Dad muttered something about the house feeling crowded. I had paid off the mortgage just last year, and now I was too much. Then Mark slid a manila envelope across the table. He'd hired a lawyer, tried to reverse the deed I'd filed legally, tried to steal the house from under me. I looked at him, eyes burning. "You weren't here when Dad was dying. You didn't feed them, bathe them, pay their bills. But you show up with wine, and suddenly you're the decision maker." He didn't flinch. Mom finally whispered, "We just want peace, honey." And that's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a mutiny. I stood up, calm, but shaking. "You want legal?" I said. "Fine. I've got the receipts. The mortgage. The insurance. The taxes. This house was drowning, and I rebuilt it." Mark stood too, trying to loom over me like he used to when we were kids. He forgot. "I'm not a kid anymore." "You're being emotional," he said. "No," I replied. "You have 24 hours to get out. All of you. Or I'll call the sheriff." The silence was louder than any shout. That night, I changed the locks. My mother looked heartbroken. "You'd evict your own parents?" "No," I said. "I'm reclaiming what I saved. You gave it up when you signed it over." The next day, they began packing. They didn't ask for help. I didn't offer. Mark was the last one out. He stood in the doorway and said, "This isn't over." "Yes, it is," I told him. "The moment you tried to steal what I built, you ended it." Weeks passed. The calls came. Angry relatives, guilt-tripping uncles. I was the villain in their story, but I didn't respond. They hadn't lived through the nights I cried in silence while patching this house back together. They hadn't seen the sacrifices I made when no one else stepped up. Then, a letter came from my mother. She wrote that she forgave me, that they'd moved in with Mark, that they still loved me, even if they didn't understand me. I threw it in the trash, because love without respect isn't love. It's control, and I was done being controlled. That Christmas, I was alone, but I lit up the house anyway, cooked myself dinner, sat by the fireplace, and read a book. And you know what? It was peaceful. I turned the attic into a studio, the guest room into an office. Every nail I hammered, I did for me. Not for approval, not for love, just for peace. Sometimes, choosing yourself means walking away from everything familiar. But when I lock the front door at night, I do it with pride. Because this house, this life, is mine. And no one's ever taking that from me again.